Stay tuned. We're gonna make a mariachi like this out of this and this. Let's get started. This is gonna be a fun one. To make the mariachi, all we're gonna need is this pre-cut wooden craft doll, a 3/16 of an inch dowel. This one is 12 inches long. We're gonna need some of these jewelry making eyelets. I'm hoping the camera can pick that up. All it is a little wire with an eyelet at the end. We're gonna be using this for the joints. And lastly, the hat. These hats I bought off Amazon, and they are actually made for putting on top of like a beer bottle or something like that for decoration, novelty decoration. So I bought some of those, I painted them white, and we're gonna use them as the mariachi hats. I'm gonna put the description to everything that we're using today in the description of the video. Let's get started. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna measure out the arms and the legs, and for this design, I decided to not only have shoulders and hips, but also to add elbows and knees. So for that, I decided to make the arms 1 1/8 inch long and the legs 1 1/4 inch long. So what's gonna happen is after we add the joints, it's gonna add a little bit of space into both the arms and the legs, so they're gonna hang down a little bit longer than 1 1/8 and 1 1/4. Here we go. Let me measure out the arms and the legs, and then we're gonna take it over to the saw. I'm just gonna butt this up to the bottom so I don't have to remeasure it. These are the arms I just created, but I'm gonna cut them in half because we need it to be the upper arm and the lower arm. So, let's see here. I'm just gonna eyeball it, but if you wanna measure yours out, you can. To me, that looks about right. So we smoothed out those rough edges with the sander, but I'm gonna take this 220 grit fine sandpaper and I'm gonna smooth each piece out even more. Now that we have our arms and our legs cut out, we're gonna decide where we wanna put them on the body. So I'm gonna start with the legs. And I like to put them on the outer part of the torso because that's where legs are. The hips are on the outside of the torso. They're not, they're not in the middle here. So first let me draw the lines or the dots. See how that looks. It looks about even. And then for the arms, I go straight up and I put them directly under where the head is going to be. And then I like to give it a once over, make sure I got that in the right spot. I like to do what I call the fingernail test, where I put my fingernail directly underneath the dots. I take a look at it. If it looks even, it's good enough. So that's where I'm going to go. My arms and my legs. So if you've ever watched any of my videos, you understand that I like to create what's called a pilot hole. I like to use this drill bit. It has a very sharp point. You can use a push pin, you can use a nail, whatever you like to create a small divot hole where you're actually going to drill. And I create that because when I take it over to the drill press, it's much easier to get that drill bit inside of these holes and start drilling because it is such a small hole that we're going to be drilling. So I've got my 4 holes. I'm going to do the same thing for the arms and the legs. Remembering that we don't want to put a hole in the bottom of the arm and we don't want to put one on the bottom of the leg. We simply want it where the shoulders are and the elbows and the hip and the knees. So that said, you're going to want to do your best to put your pilot hole in the center of the dowel on each one. So that's the bottom of the legs. For the top of the leg, I'm going to do one for the hip and for the knee. Okay, there it is. I'm at the drill press now, and I'm going to use this collet because the collet allows me to put in this very thin drill bit. This is a 1/16 of an inch drill bit that if I put it directly into the chuck, it's too thin, it'll fall right out. So I use this adapter in here. I bought this off Amazon as well. I'll put the link in the description so you can purchase one if you need one. But this is what I'm going to use to drill those holes. Also, if the camera's picking it up, you're going to see there's a small piece of green tape here. That I put there just so I know when to stop drilling. So if I'm going to drill a hole, I know once I hit the green tape, that's where I want to stop. Next, when we are drilling for these small pieces of arms and legs, these little dowels, I like to put my fingers at the very bottom because if by chance that drill bit goes through the side, I don't want to get my finger. It's just going to go to the green tape and that's it. It's not going to get my finger. Let's get started. This is the part of the project where we use these jewelry eyelets to create the shoulders, the elbows, the knees, and the hips. And we insert them into the body and also into the legs and the arms. So let me show you how to do that. For this part of the video, we're going to be putting these jewelry eyelets into the body and into the arms and legs. These are going to create the actual joints. These little eyelets we need to cut into very small pieces. So I'm just going to show you the hole that I drilled inside of this body is not very deep. So if I stick it all the way in, that's as deep as I made it. So when I create my hinge, I need to make it about that or smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece right about here, and then I'm going to fold the bottom piece over, and I'm going to crimp it down. Hoping the camera can see that. I'm going to crimp it down. So now the piece is about that big. Can you see that? Not very big. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dip it into some glue and I'm going to shove it into the hole that I drilled. Now, I'm going to take these needle nose pliers and I'm going to grab the piece from the back. The eyelet is going to open from this side, so I'm going to grab it in this direction and put it in this way. That way I know that I can open the eyelet from the bottom. Put a little glue in there. I'm just going to dip the piece in and push it into that joint there. I'm going to do this for all 4 holes, the legs, and I'm going to do it for all of these little pieces that we created for the arms and the legs. When I do the upper part of the arm or leg, I want to make sure that the eyelet is in the same direction on both sides. So here we are. So it's in the same direction. Now when we put in these pieces that don't have another eyelet, this is the bottom of the leg, I like to open up the eye just a little bit so that when I'm ready, I can take this piece, slide it in. And that way I won't have to guess what side the opening is on. Is it on this side or that side? I know it's on this side. I've got all of the arms and the legs with the hinges in them. They're ready to go. The body is ready to go. The one thing I haven't done yet is put a hole right here on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a hole right on the top of the head, And that's going to allow me to put another one of these hooks here, these eyelets, and make it so that I can actually hang this as an ornament or decoration or whatever the case may be. So that's what I like to do. You don't have to do it yourself, but let me do that, and then we're going to move on to the next step. The next step is to add the arms and the legs onto the body. But before we do that, I'm going to add a quick coat of white on there. White is the color I've chosen for this mariachi. The body, the arms, and the legs. I'm going to add a different color as the accent color. But the main mariachi suit will be white. So I'm going to paint the first coat on now. And the reason why is because once I add the arms and legs on, paint will tend to get stuck inside of these little eyelets. It'll still work just fine. I just like to add it afterwards only because once I do and the paint is in there, it tends to stick a little bit. So let me add the first coat on, and then we'll add the arms and legs on. For the body, I'm just going to paint where the suit will be. I'm going to leave the top blank because that's going to be the actual head and the face. By the way, all the paint I use on my projects is acrylic paint. It works very well with wood crafts and is very easy to wash. It's water-based, so the cleanup is very easy. And if you're looking for some acrylic paints and you don't have a hobby store near you that can provide you with some of these acrylic paints, I will put a link in the description to a package of paints, and it's going to give you a lot of different colors to choose from, but it's going to be plenty of paint for you to work with. I've got the first coat of paint on here, so now let's attach the arms and the legs. I'm going to start with the legs, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the bottom part of the leg with the top part or the thigh. I'm going to put it into the eyelet, which I've already opened on a previous step, and I'm going to take my needle nose and I'm simply going to close the gap. Okay, from there, I'm going to attach it onto here, and let me show you the rest. Okay, so here's the body. All I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the eyelet. It's a little bit. I'm going to attach the leg, and then I'm going to close the eyelet up. So it's going to look like that. I'm going to do that for all 4 limbs. This is what we have so far. When we add the hat, it's going to look even better. I'm going to actually drill a hole through my hat so that I can actually hook it up properly. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to give this one more coat of white paint. Then I'm going to paint the face. So I'll paint the head, a skin color that I like for the mariachi. And then I'm going to actually add the accents. So let's get started. For the face and the hands, I kind of want to see if I can come up with a color that's very similar to the color of the wood, actually. So I'm going to take this brown here, and I'm going to mix a little bit of white and see if I can somehow come up with that color here. Let's see how we do. All right, let's see how that looks. That looks pretty good. Our little guy is starting to gain some character. We're going to add a face. We're going to add some accents onto the mariachi suit itself. And then the last step will be to add the hat. The last step will be to put gloss on the whole thing. Turning out pretty good so far. Let's finish it up. Okay, this is what we have so far. And so now I need to add a face, and I want to add the accents to the suit itself. So first I'm going to draw it in pencil, and then I'll paint it. All right, so first I want to make sure that I'm going to paint in the center of the face and not off to the side. So that looks like it's about even from the legs and the arms. So the center is like right about here. So first I'm going to draw the mouth because that will be the center of the face. I'm drawing a circular mouth. I want the mouth to look like it's singing. So that's going to be the mouth. Now if I put the hat on, I realize I don't have a lot of space to work with for the rest of the face. I'm only going to add eyes on here. So I'll put one eyeball here. And another one here. Okay. So when it's all said and done, it's going to look like that. Can the camera see that? So that'll be the face. And then for the body itself, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put some dots on the side. So I decided to use purple accent because purple, I have purple felt. I'm going to use dark purple like this. I have purple felt and I have the purple paint to match it. That's the only reason why I'm using purple. And so the accents will be on the sides. That purple felt I'm going to use to have a mariachi tie. And so the tie is going to come down to probably about here. So I'm going to add some front buttons here, right about here. 1, 2, 3, and let's see here. Yeah, that's about right. 1, 2, 3. So those buttons, and then I'm going to draw. Hold on here. That's one reason I like using pencil first, is because it's easy to erase on the paint if you mess up. All right, so I'm going to draw those in purple dots, and then I'm going to paint a line across each one like that. Okay, so let's get started with that. I need to put some buttons here in purple, and I'm going to need to put some little dots here on the arms. For this, I sometimes use the bottom of a toothpick. In this case, I have this a finishing nail. It's a real small finishing nail, and I'm just going to dab the head of it into the paint and add those buttons. So all I do is I just take a small dab of the purple paint here, and I touch the button. I do that for each one. And that looks pretty good. So I'll use a paintbrush, a real thin paintbrush, to paint that line across. Or another thing I could do is I can take a toothpick and dip it in the paint and draw the line across as well. Either way is going to work. This time I'm going to try a paintbrush. All right, for this part here, I've got the arm, and I'm going to use the same process I did for the buttons. I'm going to take this finishing nail, and I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 dots. I'm holding the arm down. This is the way that when I'm not holding it down, the arm is actually resting in this position. It's not twisted or anything like that. So I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to do the same thing with the paint on the sides of the arms. All right, let's finish these arms here. I'm only going to add 2 dots on this one because it's a little bit shorter. So we've got the arms done. I just need to do the legs, but again, I want the arms to dry so that when I'm doing the legs, I'm not accidentally touching what I just did in the arms. And now the legs. For the bottom leg, I'm only going to put 2 dots because I have to color in the bottom part as a boot. So I'm going to leave this part alone. It's going to be painted black for the boot. Now that we have the purple accents done, I'm going to use this black acrylic paint to paint the eyes, the mouth, and the boots. All right, for the eyes, I'm going to do the same thing I did for these buttons and for these side accents. I'm just going to use a finishing nail, and I'm going to dip it in the black paint and dab the eyes. Okay, and now I'm going to paint the mouth. So I'm trying to go with an oval style mouth where it looks like he's singing. That doesn't look too bad. I would love to put a mustache on there, but there's just simply not enough space on that face. Once I let this paint dry, I'm going to take the hat. Here it is. It's going to look something like that. I don't know if the light is letting you see it, but it's going to look like that. So we're almost done. I just have to paint the boots. Then we're going to glue the hat on and gloss everything. We are almost done. We've got all the paint on. We have to gloss it still. But the next thing we need to do is add the mariachi tie. So I cut this little piece of purple felt out. I need to shape it a little bit better. I think that'll work. So now let me put some glue on it. So we have this mariachi for the most part complete. So the thing I need to do next is I'm going to put the hat on, but first I'm going to put in one of these longer jewelry eyelets right on this hook that I put in there, drill a hole in the hat so that this kind of goes through and I can actually have a hook to hang it on. Then I'm going to glue the hat on, and then to finish it up, we will gloss it up. It's looking great so far. This project is looking great so far. This is what we have. Here's the hat. Let me put it through the hole. And it's going to look just like that. Let me glue the hat on. We're going to gloss it, and then it's done. Just putting a little glue around the rim of the hat, the inside rim. And I want it to stick on there. I don't want it to be moving around. So I'm just using wood glue. I tend to use wood glue for everything, really. But it works for everything, too. Okay. When I place the hat on, I want to make sure I've got it in the right position, because once it's on, it's on. So I want this to be the front. And I'm setting it now. So I'm just going to let that dry for a little bit. When it's done, it's going to look great. I've got the hat glued on. Now I'm just going to add some gloss to the whole thing. By the way, I'm using the Deco Art Dura Clear Satin Varnish. This is the gloss that I always use. I usually put 2 layers on, sometimes 3, depending on how shiny I want it to be. So let me have that dry for a little bit, and then I'll put the second coat on, and then we will be done. I finished the gloss, I glued on the hat. Here it is. What do you think? I think it turned out pretty nice. One thing, if you're doing this project on your own, you might want to actually add on a pair of shoes. Take a small piece of wood, cut out some shoes, and add those on. Also, you may want to consider adding maybe a small guitar or a horn, something like that. I hope you liked this project, and if you did, please subscribe to this channel. Also, do me a favor, press that like button, make a comment in the comments field, tell me what you want to see next. By the way, I made a second one. I appreciate the time you took to watch this video. I'll see you on the next one.